Minisode.
That's right.
189.
That's 189.
Nope.
We never disappoint.
Not in front of JP. Don't do it
No,
like that.
that's what we got.
Everybody gets a little.
Not telling
Everybody
the
gets
guests.
a little taste.
Yeah, we never tell the guests that stick around that's its essential intro to the minisode. Maybe minisode 200 will change. But
yeah, I mean, I'm not scared with the satanic, monthly meetings like it. This is fun.
Right. I mean, that's how they start. Yeah.
I'm surprised Jesse's so grossed out by it. Honestly.
Someone has to be the one who sticks up for the fans.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Yeah. Someone's got to be like, guys, what if we didn't do this?
Yeah, you're a hero to them, man. That's awesome.
Okay, Jesse, you were like, I'm just gonna go by in this. You were like fucking in a rabbit hole after rabbit hole after rabbit hole. So I'm so fucking curious what you have for today. That's like got you.
Yeah. This week I found an article that goes into a big study about meditation and mindfulness and mental health. And I'm sure, as we all know, that there's a lot of talk about mindfulness and that kind of stuff in today's world. And there's a lot of workshops and apps now and like coach guru guys who claim to tell you that like if you get right with yourself and the world and everything, that like life will be so much easier, and to take time for you and to sort of like space out a little bit and just like sit in quiet, like that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
Just like mindfulness. And apparently there have been multiple studies throughout the years that sort of culminated in a big study in 2022 that is now just starting to pick up traction, which is essentially that messing around with mindfulness and meditation indiscriminately, it looks like there's clinical indications that it could cause serious psychiatric problems such as depression, agitation, and schizophrenic decompensation. And so, like, if you're wondering what I was looking up, I was straight up Googling all these things, like, what the hell is schizophrenic decompensation? I'm like, what do you mean? And I also wanted to deep dive into how come I've never heard of this? Why is this, like, they said they've been doing a study for years. Like, why have I never heard that, like, meditation can lead to, like, negative outcomes?
Yeah.
And so I did a huge deep dive into why. And so basically, it's largely underreported, essentially, is that a lot of people who are experiencing bad negative side effects are just told that these are things in their life, and that by doing more meditation and more mindfulness, they will get past it, essentially, right? The answer is more. But these studies are showing that the problem is actually this, the actual like meditation, the mindfulness. Essentially,
like
they're saying yes, it absolutely.
Shit.
Yeah, they're saying it can help your well-being. Absolutely, taking time to like center yourself and take time for you can help you. Absolutely, they're like, it definitely can, and for most people it does. We're not saying it's a thing, just stop doing it. We're saying that for a lot of people, there is a negative, like with everything. Some people just can't do it, and there's negative outcomes for it. And they're saying that the biggest problem right now is that meditation, mindfulness, all that stuff is essentially about like business now. And like all businesses, they don't really care if you're doing well. They just want your money. And so similar to a lot of treatment things, it's not necessarily about curing it. I think there's no value in a cure. There's value in treatment. And so that's why that's like, it's a huge, especially US medical stuff. That's kind of what they're talking about. And so mindfulness and meditation is a treatment for things, not really a solution. And so it's a big business. And they're like, that could be why stuff like this is underreported, underutilized. People are told like to push through it, that kind of thing. And I was like, okay. So I started digging deeper, because obviously to me, first reading this, I was like, is this like one of those things where I'm going to find out that the article and everything's put together by like people who just have ulterior motives, like that kind of thing. So I started diving deeper. And basically they were saying that some of the examples of things that happened, anxiety, dysregulated arousal with energy problems, disrupted sleep and wake cycles, which apparently is one experienced by people who have no previous symptoms of anything. Like, you don't have to go into this with mental health problems. Literally, if you just like close your eyes and zone out for a while, it can mess with your entire, some people just fall asleep and then it messes with their cycle of sleep, like that kind of thing.
Sure.
That sounds like me, just that I just have some mental issues.
Yeah, I think that all checks out. Like that all makes sense.
Like what is it? Those like sensory deprivation rooms. Like if you're in them for too long, your brain just starts to fucking hallucinate. It's
you
like,
can't. You got to be in the right mindset to go in those for sure.
And and that's what they're saying is like a lot of people go into the idea of mindfulness and meditation because they're experiencing some form of anxiety or stress or whatever, and they go into it hoping it will fix that. But for a lot of people, what ends up happening is they just sit in silence or they take time by themselves, and then all that stuff just compounds within them. Like they sit there and just think about all their problems, which is not healthy at all. And so they just stew and get worse. This leads to signs of disassociation. Emotional blunting, which is basically you start feeling emotionless. Compromised executive dysfunction, which is you have problems making decisions. Social withdrawal. You start to sort of remove yourself from everyone because you're taking way too much time to do this. And they say that that's a symptom of the fact that a lot of mental wellness now is less about like getting in touch with you and more about like this weird pseudo religious stuff where it's like this will change the world and yourself and your mind. And so, and they're like, that causes issues too. And then there's one that I had to look up because it's perceptual hypersensitivity, which I guess is a common change in how you perceive sensory stimuli, such as smells, textures, and visual stimuli. And I was like, what the hell?
In what sense?
And apparently these are all things that people have experienced. And in 2022, just as another great example, is a study tested 8,000 children ages 11 to 14 across 84 schools in the UK. And the result showed that practicing mindfulness didn't really do anything compared to the control group that didn't do it. And actually, the kids that did practical mindfulness ended up like having some of these problems. And again, they were like, here's the thing. If you don't have someone there who like knows what's up or like someone who has individualized a thing for you, just like everything medical, because it is mental health, it needs to be something that's for you personal. You can't just go into a one person, one size fits all, we're going to mess with your mind kind of vibe. And so they're saying they did this for all these children, and every child's different. As a teacher, I can tell you that. Every child learns different and acts different. And so to get them all, like some kids could sit quiet and they were fine and great. Some kids sit quiet and they lose their minds, right? They just go like crazy because they can't. And they're like, yeah, it doesn't necessarily make things better for people because most people are not in a mental health state to just sit with themselves.
It's like reading.
They're like most people, turns out, run from themselves. Yeah. And so they're like, hey, maybe we should, talk about this, but I guess it's not a thing people do. I had no idea. I did so much research before I was sitting there like, what the hell does this mean? What is that? Apparently it's a thing that's very underreported and
sadly true.
Yeah, a lot of the symptoms you say are also symptoms of just deep depression as well. All those things tend to happen to people who just are depressed. As somebody who went through a very long period of that.
It's one of those things where people seek out mental health things like, meditation, because they're going through, like most people that are just like, got to work my job, got to go home, take care of the kids, got to do, like most people are not doing, like sitting there and trying to be mindful, right?
Yes.
The people that are people who are like, yo, I got to do something. Or they're like, I'm going to experiment with this. Or, it's.
And then there comes the point, and maybe this plays a part of it too, but like, especially if you've never done that, we live in a world of consistent stimulation, of consistent, like something to do. When you finally get a moment to sit with yourself and there's nobody in the room and it's just you and your thoughts, you don't have anybody but you, baby. And that shit can suck.
It can get scary.
Yeah. You're like, oh, I hate this. I hate this.
And that's one of those things I think is interesting, that the number one thing they described was anxiety. Like you go to meditate and to get sort of mentally well, and the outcome is you're more stressed than before. And I absolutely can understand it, because sometimes if you sit there with yourself, like, hey, hi, I don't know if you've ever been on an airplane that one time I was going to the UK and the power went out on the TVs. There was no air conditioning. And they were like, there was 9 hours left in the flight. And they were like, well, everything's fine with the plane. We just had like some sort of power glitch. In order to get everything back on, we'd have to land and restart every system. So we're just going to push on to England, and I sat there for 9 hours with zero stimuli
in your head.
I
it's like a
was losing
flight.
At one point, I saw flecks of like dust floating through the air, and it entertained me. That's where I was mentally. So I'm letting you know, I can easily break. That's why I'm not doing this. I would be like, guys, I got a problem. I think something's wrong with me. Like, that was the 9 longest hours of my life. They couldn't serve us meals because nothing could power on to heat the food. So we just all sat there. Everyone sat there and like slowly went crazy on this flight.
That's under the context of not wanting to do that. That's like not going into this like with mindfulness in mind, just thrust upon you and like going in for it. And I'm trying to come at this from maybe a different angle. Maybe they talk about it in the study and I'm just not aware. But there's also this element of like, if you are trying to like help yourself or figure this shit out, and whether that means spending time in silence or mindfulness, a lot of the time that means confronting shit that from your past, present, the way you were, the way people treated you, that is going to make you feel like ass for a long time as you learn a new norm, learn a new reality where you have to rebuild and like with an understanding of who these people were, who you even were a few years ago. And that is going to raise your anxiety. That's why I went on, like, I'm on not nearly as many like anxiety meds as before, but that was part of it. Was like, when you start this healing process for a lot of people, it means deconstructing your life and seeing it for what it was, not what you've been filtering it through. And I wonder if that's part of it. Like,
I mean, they
as
say,
you start going through that.
Yeah, they say in this that it's the focus is people who do it indiscriminately. Yeah. And I think the idea is I would say much like if you were going to try a certain drug for the first time. You want like your guide. You want someone in the room who's been there and is like, I got you, dude. Like or
at least do
I
an
think it's
insane
the same
amount of
thing
research
here.
and don't be alone.
Yeah, because you're messing with your mind. Like very few people sit there in silence and zone out the world. And like you were saying with the chambers or whatever those things are, where you float.
Yeah, the sensory deprivation.
That can mess you up if you're not ready for that.
That's why monks
really
and shit
can.
aren't
I think,
like dime a dozen. You know what I mean? Like, you know, it feels like, you know, you can learn like a YouTube video and then you can do yoga, meditation, like all these things. But really, the people who really can do that and know why they're doing it and how it helps and what it does, that's like a lifetime dedication. You know what I mean? Like,
and that's what it's saying. That's the article saying, like, it's a business now. And there's a lot of people out there who are like, you know, we're going to drink some wine and then we're just going to sit with our thoughts. And it's like, don't do that. Don't do that.
Yeah, don't do that. But it's such an easy business to get into, right? You just like vague affirmations and things that sound like a good idea. That's all you got to do.
In a lot of ways, it's like going to therapy, having the therapist tell you the problem, and then leaving.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
Like that's all it is.
That's dead ass true.
Yeah. So that's what I was digging. Because I will say, like you said, I don't know what the article told you. I'm gonna let you know. I looked through 3 articles. All of them were trash. Like, they gave you like, oh yeah, this is what they're thinking about. I had to go to the actual studies and look at the abstracts and look at what they were saying. And then I had to take that and then look at the words and Google search what the hell half the words meant. Cause I don't know what this means. All I'm saying is sometimes when you look up a thing, you just got to dig a little deeper, even if it means you spend 25 minutes before the show, like mashing your keyboard, trying to figure out what the hell. And
half the topics come from this show coming from digging into rabbit holes and finding things entirely like that. Project Pegasus was a thing I discovered doing an entirely different episode. I'm like, I'm banking that for a future episode. That's fucking hilarious. Insane.
Yeah.
Alex, what about you? What you got?
I got something totally different for you. We're going to the R Paranormal Reddit.
Great.
Again.
Oh, I'm there often. So.
This one was posted a day ago, and I want to read because this is like it's funny you say rabbit hole, because this is like I found this post and I thought the post was great, and then like the comment section is arguably like even more entertaining than the post. So I'm gonna just go ahead and read the post, and then I'll send you guys the pictures from the post, and then I'm gonna read my favorite comment from the post. So here we go. We bought a house from a widow, and shortly after we moved in, my son started making a doll out of his clothes and calling it Lil Jimmy. He takes him outside, and they play board games, and my son will talk to him. One day, my son said, Lil Jimmy looks my age, which is 10, but he says he's 72. So I did some Googling and found out the widow's husband was named James Jr., a.k.a. Lil Jimmy, and when he was 72 when he died on hospice care, so probably in our house. I've taken little Jimmy apart to wash him since he gets kind of crusty playing outside, and the lights would flicker, so I stopped doing that. Other than being weird, I don't get any bad vibes from little Jimmy, and our pets will cuddle with the thing my kid made, so he's probably a nice spirit. But that's my paranormal story. And so here is the post, and you can
Little Jimmy, I think
out,
I read this. This is wild post.
Yeah, there's 3 posts here. You can see little Jimmy. There's a picture of little Jimmy in there. It's pretty good. You can kind of like look at that. He's kind of like little a scarecrow. Like the kind of scarecrow that people...
Is that like a lightsaber?
That is Kylo Ren's lightsaber.
That is Kylo Ren's lightsaber, but they put another top to it, so it's yellow.
Great.
Yeah, so it's
that's little Jimmy.
So that's little Jimmy. So little Jimmy's pretty good, but then here's a comment from 00 Puriturnus. And oh, by the way, this post was by me315, just in case, which is a great username actually. Which probably means that guy's name is John. All right, here we go. 00 Puritanius. This is actually 2 posts, but I'm going to read them all as one. My imaginary friend was a kid about the same size as me, and only I could see him. This made my big brother jealous, and he started saying he could see him too. My big brother was a creep, and he kept trying to maneuver me into accidents, like pretending to drink from a soda pop bottle and passing it to me, and it was petrol. I was 3 years old and took a gulp. Another time he had me pull a piece of metal out of a plug socket, and if my gran hadn't bumped me away, I would have had more than just a scorch mark on my hands. My imaginary friend warned me against him, telling me not to do anything he told me because he wanted to watch me get hurt and to immediately tell my dad if he tried something again. He also said only I could see him as he was my friend only. He stuck around until I went to school. I've always thought of him as a very positive influence, and he probably saved my life a few times. For context, I'm now 61 years old, and this all happened in the 60s and 70s. I've always remembered my imaginary friend, though a lot of kids seem to forget theirs. He was real enough to me. My brother was very clever at making things look like accidents and blaming me for the fallout, but after I faced him and refused to do what he told me, he changed tactics to more regular bullying. He was 3 years older and also bigger than me. He got away with it because he was always believed and always had some kind of reason, like I'd stolen and broken his stuff. I wouldn't dare, of course, but he convinced my mom and she believed him. This lasted until I was big enough to start hitting back. And once I managed to kick him squarely in the crotch, which caused his penis head to split open, and he had to get stitches.
Oh,
luckily for me, a friend had seen him shoving my face into the lawn, so I couldn't breathe, and I was covered for self-defense. This was the last time he tried anything openly, but we never remotely had anything like a brotherly relationship after that. We're still not friendly, and the less I see of him, the better. To be honest, that sounds pretty fair.
Sounds more than fair. Yeah.
So that's what happens when you find an interesting looking rock and you lift up the rock, and underneath you find an even more interesting rock.
Interesting. All right. We're going to wrap this up with, I got 3 images / videos that I want you guys to see, and I want you to rank them. This is evidence of some supernatural stuff or some just plain old weird stuff. I've got a security photo of a little ghost girl disappearing. I've got a photo of baby Bigfoot, and I've got a video of a 3-legged man.
I can't wait for all 3 to be blurry. I'm really excited.
Okay, so here, no, the 3-legged man's a less interesting one. I just think it's interesting prop work. But
I sent you guys a 3-legged man.
Did you?
Yeah.
So this is our 3-legged man?
This is your 3-legged man. I just want to hear, like, do you believe, like, what do you think? Do you think it's real? Do you think it's fake? This is just a little boosh.
I've seen this.
Have you? I had not seen this before.
Yes, it's 100%. It's not only is it fake, you can see him operating the 3rd leg with his hand in his pocket.
Yeah.
That's
neat prop work.
Extremely creepy, but yeah, pretty.
This,
it's well done.
Next thing is a photo of baby Bigfoot from people who were hiking in the woods, who they saw a group of deer, and as they were looking over to take a picture, they saw this and snapped a picture of it. I got you the link coming here momentarily.
All right.
Okay. Baby Bigfoot.
Let's see. Let's catch a glimpse of this warlock. Oh my God. It looks like Chaka. Dude, come on. That looks like the type of dolls they're not allowed to sell anymore.
Talking about it's baby Bigfoot.
That is Chaka from Land of the Lost.
It really looks like it. Yeah. You know what is more real?
You don't think that's real?
3-legged Bigfoot, as seen here.
Oh, fuck. What? I want that so bad, dude.
Three-legged Bigfoot.
That's a three-legged Bigfoot there, JP. Can you not tell?
Yeah,
no. You not tell three-legged Bigfoot?
Perfect.
Yeah. Stunning image.
Cool.
Yeah.
JP?
Stunning is correct.
Is this a real baby Bigfoot? Yes or no?
No.
It looks like that. Hold on. Let me find the meme real quick. It looks like a meme that I use all the time on, I guess it's on the phone, of like basically an old puppet from like the 70s.
I know exactly what you're talking about. You are
where it's
actually
like head
dead
turns very slowly.
Yep.
Yeah, hold on.
Yep, you're actually right. And it looks exactly like that. God
it's
damn.
this right here.
My favorite part
oh my God.
is that in the comments that are just like
there it is.
Laughing and all this stuff. And this one guy says, this is
like.
BS. I seen this dude wandering in Washington Park, Chicago. One person, shout out to Patty, says, you just never know.
I'm with you, Patty.
And I want to live with that level of optimism. Like, maybe.
Our last little snippet is a security camera footage of a little girl disappearing.
Oh,
all right. I'm excited for this. Let's go.
Is this a Nuke's top 5?
No, it's not. It's a news station in Mexico.
Top 5 ghosts.
What? What?
The video ends too quick.
She's gone?
If you go back to the beginning, you can see the wide shot. And she comes in. She's walking, but already when she enters the frame, there's like glitches.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There's also that like flash
probably motion detected, right? Like,
yeah, and then she starts to fade, but she's still walking out of the shot.
It looks like it wasn't covered.
That's the only paranormal news we had this past week. All right, it's been a dry week for weird paranormal shit.
I mean, look, there is a type of video camera footage that looks like this, right? Like this is one of those ones. It's just like the episode that we did today about Project Pegasus, right? Like there's a million stories that are that story, right? And this is just another one of that story. Those ones are probably not real. The ones that all like congeal into one shape, those ones probably aren't real. This is one of those. This is one of those ones where it's like either like an artifact on the camera tape, because sometimes it shows an empty street there, and one time a girl walked by and it didn't all the way transfer. I saw that on what's his name's channel, that guy who spray paints half of his face. What's that guy's name?
Oh,
Disillusion.
Disillusion.
Yeah,
Disillusion.
Yeah. He did a piece on all those types of like security cameras, especially the kind that use tape, but even the digital ones like sometimes can like just compress the file wrong because sometimes it doesn't record motion to save space on the hard drive, if you know what I mean, so that it doesn't like, yeah. So that's kind of the vibe.
Makes sense. Yep. Makes sense.
Pretty crazy.
Oh, week for some paranormal news. Still, thank you for joining us, JP. We'll have you back for the October fucking special of time traveling Barron Trump conspiracy theory.
H.G. Wells.
I'm excited. I'm on board.
I'm excited too. Thank you again. We'll be back next week. Thank you guys so much for listening and supporting us. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.